Welcome to week 3 of the bonus episode where we'll talk all things power rankings and jump into the Monday Night Football. So I think we just do that straight away. I'm joined by Byron, as similar as last week, and we've got Paul this week to talk about all his power rankings and, like I mentioned, the Monday Night Football. Since there was 2, let's dive straight into them. Let's talk about the first game. So the Bucks versus Texans. Baker does it again. Mayfield leads Bucks to a game-winning TD drive, including an amazing escape at rush on 4th down. And the Bucks looking good at 2-0, which is not the case for the Texans, who are 0-2. So the Bucks sneak the win at 20-19 against the Texans. Paul, just beforehand, you were saying how you can't believe the Texans didn't win that.
Yeah. I was from a bet perspective. I was on the Texans -2.5, and I was watching it back, knowing the score as well. Obviously, it's a bit different, but I just kind of at that point in the game where they block the punt in Buccaneers territory, down a point with 6 minutes to go. I think to not win the game from there is criminal, really, from the Texans. And ultimately, it's the same problems rearing its head again as they were last year. They just can't protect CJ Stroud. They can't give him enough time. So it might not necessarily be resulting in tons of sacks at the minute, but it's just resulting in being under pressure and harassed and not enough time for things to develop. And they're struggling as a result on offense. So, really, really disappointing from the Texans because it was a quick start to the game from both teams, and then defensive lines kind of just took over because the Bucs were struggling as well. Very similar to week 1 from the Bucs against the Falcons. It was the same story, really. But I just felt the Texans kind of had the game in their hands, and they just blew it. And to only get the field goal from the block punt, and then I thought they should have run it. We just mentioned off camera, I think Chubb should go down. I don't think Chubb should run that in with a time on the clock. I think it's getting to the 2-minute warning. I think you go down. I think you try and make the Bucs burn the timeouts, try and take as much time off that clock as possible, and maybe you can still run it in to win it and to score a touchdown. And just give them so little time, or you're kicking it, giving them little to no time at all. I thought it was very, very poorly managed from the Texans and the Bucs. Baker, awesome. If you do not put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers away, they can find and will find ways to win games, and the Bucs are only going to get better. And that's the thing; the Bucs are only going to get better. Fair play. 2 games maybe that they shouldn't have won, and they've won. Can't argue with that.
Yeah, I think it's always that weird thing with the Bucs. You never say. It's very rare we're like, the coaching staff are actually good time management and actually winning games for them. And I think the last 2 games, I think you've got to give Todd Bowles his flowers, and he's done it perfectly. Only thing I would say about the Chubb sliding down, it's not like the Texans were running all over the Buccaneers, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucs got a few sacks and a few penalties from the Texans, and then you find the 4th down, and we hear say, why did Chubb just not score? Especially how that Texans defense was looking, especially in that second half they were getting after Baker. And I think the biggest play was that 4th down where it looked like the Texans had won it, basically. And Baker managed to sneak out there, and even does the Baker thing of not sliding, decides to just try and take someone on and does like a flip in the air in just typical Baker fashion, which is great. And I think that just did it perfectly. But from we've got the Texans side, 0-2, obviously starting this year, as Paul said, similar troubles. Any worries about CJ Stroud? Obviously, last year it dropped off, and this year it's not there again for him.
Yeah, I think there has to be worries about CJ Stroud. I think there's certainly issues that aren't of his creation. That offensive line is appalling. I don't think they're scheming very well at all. I think they're missing Christian Kirk, who hasn't actually played for them yet, but I think he'll be a big addition in terms of being able to get open immediately. But he's not covering himself in glory either. But I just feel so much that I don't want to say it's David Carr because it's a long way from that, but you can just see that the whole line breaks down so quickly. I mean, the interception he threw, or didn't end up throwing, I guess, but to Levante David, that should have been an interception, was just an appalling throw. And it kind of looked, I'm saying it's not David Carr-esque, but like it reminds me of what this is one of the sticks I always used to beat Sam Darnold with, is like as soon as things get bad, he just fries and he melts down. And that's how it felt watching CJ Stroud in the second half, especially last night, was as soon as things get tough, things are going really badly for him. And it's almost like he's expecting things to go bad. And I mean, it's fair enough because things are going bad an awful lot around him, but he just doesn't seem to be able to overcome it right now. And I mean, that's not easy as a young quarterback. He's in his third year. Second year was a disaster with that O-line. And we talked about it all off season. Every time we talked about the Texans was like, I think the talent's actually got worse on the offensive line, and they're just kind of hoping that scheme and culture will fix that. And it doesn't seem like it's coming anywhere close. And I do kind of feel they're really letting down this defense. I think between Stroud, Nico Collins, and the overall of this defense, you've got a playoff team there.
Yeah.
And then that O-line is such a fatal flaw that, they're 0-2 to start the season. They obviously really should have put this game away, but they just can't get flowing on offense. I just think this is going to be a flaw all season, and I think it's going to cost them a playoff spot come the end of the season. The Colts are looking better than we anticipated. I still think the Jags should be favourite for the division. We'll get into our power rankings soon, but I think the Jags and the Colts are more well-rounded teams than the Texans, and it's wild for me to think that because that defense is so good. They had so much fun with the Bucs O-line last night, and yet they still can't get a win.
Yeah, I think that says a lot about it says a lot about the Bucs that they didn't have Tristan Wirfs. Obviously, Godeke went out after the first play. Like Kansas looks like it might be done for the year. Hopefully, we're hearing positive news. But yeah, that they have them injuries and them deficiencies, but still win. So let's just move on to the next game. As I mentioned, it was a double Monday Night Football, and the Chargers defense looking minter. Chargers wreak havoc in Vegas as Gino has one of his worst nights with 3 interceptions. Sorry, Byron. Chargers have a chance to go 3-0 next week in the division because they've got the Broncos week 3, which will be, probably the best start anyone could ask for in football. Yeah, it was I'll chuck it over to you, Byron. Talk about your, I was going to say one true love, but certainly up there. Geno Smith not having the greatest game last night, and the Chargers defense looking incredible.
Yeah, Geno was not great. Didn't complete anything with more than 10 air yards, 3 interceptions on those throws. I think the first interception was woeful. I think the other 2 came a little bit out of desperation. The receivers had their hands on the balls on the last 2 interceptions, so I'm not going to ping that totally on him, but he didn't have a good game regardless. I think you're seeing really the lack of depth at the Raiders pass catchers, especially. If Brock Bowers is not a full go, Jacoby Myers had another good game. I loved him hammering the spin move at one point, just trying to spin his way out of everything. But I love Jacoby Myers as a player, but he can't carry an offense. Brock Bowers has to be the alpha pass catcher in that room. And if he's dinged up and can't go at full speed, then it's going to be tough to see the Raiders execute enough. Geno obviously wasn't good enough. Completed just over half his passes. No touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Some poor decision making, but I think a lot of it did come out of desperation to just try and make a play happen, especially as the game got later and later. The O-line again doing him no favors, but that seems to follow Geno around truthfully. And I tweeted, posted on Blue Sky about it last night. I said Oakland. Las Vegas looked a long way from New England yesterday.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of them things we talked about a lot in the review show yesterday of, the Jets. Well, was that a damning indictment of the Steelers? Maybe. The Bears playing with the Vikings much closer than they did the Lions. Yeah, that's going to be an indictment on the Vikings defense more than we anticipated. I think this is a real indictment on New England more than it is on the Raiders necessarily. I think we're seeing the Raiders' true level now that they're not playing against the Patriots in week 1. And I thought the Chargers were very, very good value for the win.
Yeah, obviously, Gentry not having another great game. I thought, it's a struggle. I think he'll come on during the season. But yeah, Paul, we'll move on to the Chargers side. Obviously, it feels like they should have won this game a lot more than 11 points. I think it just felt comfortable for them. Obviously, Khalil Mack, that look a nasty injury. There's a worry for that. Not getting too much pressure, but that linebackers and back end is looking incredible. Yeah, what have you got to say about the Chargers in general?
Yeah, just another sort of just taking care of business performance, just really solid. You're probably right. It should have probably been a three score game, really, shouldn't it? 3-score game would have been probably fair. I think probably we were able to take the foot off the gas a little bit. I thought they were helped a lot by Gino. I thought Gino had a real bad night. Decision making, double coverage, just throwing balls up to be intercepted like that. But yeah, I thought it was easy for the Chargers. Again, just Justin Herbert, solid, right decisions, taking care of the ball. And then, like Quentin Johnson again. I know he had the big play, huge play, but he's becoming very reliable for the Chargers, which is incredible when you think of sort of where he came from. But solid nights. I saw Keenan Allen in the end zone again. Like McConkey had an okay night, and yeah, that defense is just mean. It's nasty. It makes plays. Yeah, and the Chargers are going to be a tough out. And if they can get to 3-0 and have a win over all three AFC West teams, yeah, they can really get rolling. They can really put themselves in pole position if they're not already to win the AFC West. Yeah,
it certainly helps that lad McConkey. We all came into this year thinking he was going to have to be the number one target man, and he's not been the first 2 weeks, which is nothing against him. Just Johnson and Keenan Allen stepped up and did a lot better than everyone anticipated. Awesome. So that's the Monday Night Football Week 2. So let's move on to our power rankings, the main point of this bonus episode. So yeah, let's talk about our top 8. A few changes here and there. So the Bills and the Eagles have stayed 1 and 2. The Packers has snuck up 1 to 3, with the Ravens dropped to 4. Both having the same points, but with me and Paul having the Packers over the Ravens take the tiebreak. Chargers stick at 5. The Rams jump up 1 to 6. The Lions jump up 4 to 7. And the Bucks, welcome to the top 8. Yeah, they got 1 spot. So yeah, I'll shout it. I'll give it to you, Paul. Let's talk about this Packers team. Everyone's been talking waxy lyrical about them. Why did you have them above the Ravens? Similar to me, and we'll get Byron the opposite.
Yeah, I think I had them at 3 last week as well. I think just off the back of I think that week 1 performance against the Lions, and then they followed it up again. They beat 2 playoff teams from the NFC. They've handled with ease, I think, in the first 2 weeks, both at home, I know. But again, I thought they made the Commanders look very, very ordinary. That line and front 7 or whatever is insanely good. Obviously Parsons, we all know about Parsons, but the rest of them have sort of stepped up a gear as well. And then it makes it a lot easier. Jordan Love doesn't necessarily have to do as much, but I thought he had again pretty decent outing on Thursday Night Football. And I don't think the Commanders are a bad team at all. So I think it's just another good win for the Packers. So yeah, I've got them there as kind of my second NFC team behind the Eagles.
Yeah, but so why have you still got the Ravens at 2? Just curious, still behind, or still ahead of, the Eagles and Packers.
Yeah, just kind of trusting in my, preseason take of how good the roster is. I think they bounced back really well, obviously against the Browns this week, and it's kind of until I have a reason to ding them, I'm going to keep them in the top 2. I think obviously they were unlucky to lose, in my opinion, against the Bills. I think that was a bit freaky. So yeah, I'm going to keep it. Essentially, I think my top 5 is going to change stay the same until reason to change otherwise. Like if one of them has an underwhelming performance, then I'll look at changing it from there. But right now, I'm going to stick with where I have them.
Yeah, I would say the top 8 is fairly solid for me. I think we've all got them. Yeah, all top 8 teams, obviously in slightly different orders. And yeah, obviously the Lions sneaking back in after that big performance. I think we'll move on to the next 8 because I think that's where the interesting teams are. Where I was surprised where some teams were higher and lower than expected. So 9th. So the 49ers jump up 5 spots to number 9. The Commanders stay at 10. The Chiefs drop 3 more to 11. The Vikings tumble down to 12, 6 spots. The Colts 9 spots up to 13. The Jags 14 up 1 spot. The Broncos down 3 at 15, and the Falcons up 4 at 16. Yeah, this was a bit of a wild one. Obviously, we've got some big movers and shakers, and so yeah, I'll start with the 49ers at 9. I was surprised though you guys ranked it this high. I think it's been 2 solid starts against good. Well, I wouldn't say the Saints are a good team, but against teams who I thought they should win. I think it's more an indictment of these you have the top 8, and then there's the rest of the teams. I found it tricky to figure out where all these teams were. So obviously the Niners being 2-0 bumps that up to 9. I will go, Paul. Why did you have the Niners at 9? Going up, they've got up 5 spots altogether.
Yeah, and it's probably not because of the Niners themselves. I think it's just more the other fallers that I had is what it is. But again, Niners have dealt with what could have been a very, very tricky situation. You've lost Kittle, lost Purdy, and again, it was close against the Saints and they won by 6, didn't they? But again, just go in and getting that win. It's hard to win without your quarterback in the NFL. It really, really is. We've seen teams manage to do it, seen teams struggle to do it. So any wins you can get while you're out, while you're without Brock Purdy, I think a big plus point, and that's a shout out to Matt Jones. Did play okay, and the coaching staff for creating a game plan and leading on the defense a little bit as well. But the Niners moving up probably a couple of spots, but then just kind of the others falling around them. That's why they jumped up kind of 5 on that. I think they jumped up 4 or 5 on my board. Yeah, from 13 to 9 on my board, they jumped up. And that's, again, just more on others falling. They did jump up 1 or 2 places at least, but it's the others falling that made it happen on my list.
Yeah. Barry, is anyone you want to touch upon in this list? Like I said, there's a lot of interesting teams moving quite a few spaces.
Yeah. Vikings, obviously, my preseason darlings, but I think their performance on Sunday Night Football was close to woeful. And now you've got the JJ McCarthy injury. So we're going to see Carson Wentz out there. I think, we'll see Darisaw come into the team. We'll see Addison come into the team both by week 4, anticipated. And maybe they'll move back up in the rankings by then. But what we've seen so far, really 1 quarter of really good football against a poor Chicago team and 7 quarters of underwhelming football against a poor Chicago team. And we'll see Falcons team, middle of the pack Falcons team. So, yeah, I think they've been underwhelming to start the season. So I think it's fair they've taken a big drop. They fell 6 places for me this week, which has matched our overall as well. And I was really pleased to see the Colts, everyone had in the same kind of range, because obviously the 2-0, all credit to them. But I thought it might be some overreaction there, and maybe they might get, because I fully agreed the top 8 is pretty locked in for me. And I struggled from 9, probably through 16, truthfully, of exactly where to put people. And I thought the Colts might get over-egged a little bit because of that, but I was really pleased to see. We've all moved them up a lot, obviously. I've moved up 7 spots. I've gone up 9 overall. But I think they're pretty much exactly where they should be. I had them at 15. I had them at 14. Not 13, but I think they're certainly in the right ballpark for where they should be. So I was really pleased to see that we haven't gone crazy on our Colts Kool-Aid.
Yeah, they've got up 16 spots from our original one from the start of the year. So that's how much they've surprised. Yeah, I had them at 12. I just think the played, for the Broncos is a good team who I'm going to get onto next. But I think, them and the Jags, we've got a point between them. I think it's a coin toss who's probably the best team in the NFC South right now, and that'll be interesting when they play against each other. But yeah, I just think the Colts as a whole team, the winning the games where it's like it's 50-50, where I worry that the Jags, when it's 50-50, they lose the game. So that's why I had the Colts slightly higher. Yeah, the Broncos, this one I was surprised at dropping 3 spots. So we had them at 12, and they lost the Colts, where I'm sure Paul's still angry about that player that hasn't been cut yet.
Crazy. He's not been cut yet.
So yeah, Broncos are 15, so they're below the Jags, they're below the Vikings, and now they've just lost the Colts. Was it a surprise? Like, you had them at 15. Is a worry that at the start of the year we had them a lot higher? I think we had them in the top 10, and that we expect this defense to be, dominant and to be a difference maker. And obviously, they beat the Tennessee Titans, but they lost the Colts. Is it just the opposition they've lost to? Why we've got them so low? I'm just curious where you think with the Broncos.
Well, they made hard work of it against the Titans, and then they pissed a game away against the Colts. In my opinion, I know the Colts, of course, play well. We've speaking about Danny Dimes there, but Broncos should have won that game. Absolutely should have won that game. And this isn't me being bitter because I lost my Broncos -1 bet. They absolutely should have won that game. And yeah, I'm just worried that just things are getting a little bit slack, and not to start again shout sophomore slump for Bo Nix, but he played to such a good level last year, which is going to be hard, I think, to live up to it as a rookie. So yeah, they need more. They need more from that offense, I think, and the defense needs to. The defense will get it together. There's too many good players. It's too good a unit. They'll get it together. But yeah, I think I bumped them down 3 or 4 spots. Did I? No, I only bumped them down 1 spot. Sorry, yeah, I only bumped them down from 14 to 15. So it's you two that's really dinged them to push them down the table.
Yeah, I knocked them down 3. Fully agree with your reasoning though. Like just not being able to take care of business against the Colts and very nearly didn't take care of business against the Titans. It's not what you want to see.
Yeah. Awesome. Anyone else you want to have a quick chat about before I move on?
All good.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Falcons. They were 4 on mine, 4 overall. If that pass rush can get going and that the offensive skill players can get going more, obviously Penix is not a rookie, but he's on his 5th career start now. So certainly not an experienced player. If those red zone issues can get ironed out, we've seen the Bucs really be a bit improbable to be 2-0. They were as low as 10% in win probability yesterday against Texans, or as low as 25% win probability against the Falcons at certain points in those games. I'd be interested to see if the Falcons can keep moving up, if that pass rush can keep progressing. Obviously, 2 first-rounders on there, and if that, like I said, the offensive skill players who are coming back to fitness, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, made the season debuts on Sunday. I'll be interested to see how high they can keep pushing, because obviously far from a finished product. We've got them at 16, but I think there's reason to be excited if you're a Falcons fan.
Nice. All right, that's next 8. So the Bengals, who have gone 2-0, have dropped down 4 to 17. The Cowboys stick at 18. The Seahawks go 2 to 19. The Texans, who we talked about, dropped 4 spots to 20. The Steelers down 2 to 21. The Cardinals up 3 to 22. The Bears dropping 6 spots to 23. And the Raiders stay the same at 24. Obviously, we talked about the Bengals quite a bit last week. There's a reason why they dropped 4 spots, even though they're 2-0 with Joe Burrow out. So let's talk about Byron's overreaction. You actually had them up 3. They've gone up 3 spots. The Cardinals. Did anything change your mind while doing this ranking, or?
I thought I had to give them some respect. But it was really, I think once you get to the Bears and down, I think you've got some poor football teams. And I think fair play to the Cardinals. They are 2-0. They haven't looked perfect doing it. But, what if they improve and their win record keeps solid? I don't think that's out of the realm possibility for them to get better. So, yeah, I'm just felt they should be above the Bears. The Bears were woeful Sunday. We've talked about the Raiders. I think, again, have come back down to their level after a good showing against New England. And I think the teams in this bottom tier, there's much less reason for excitement than there is. I'm not saying the Cardinals are a super exciting team, but I think that defense can improve with the young pieces on it. Will Johnson certainly can, a second-round pick can keep improving. And I think it's more likely this offense gets better, especially in the rushing attack, which has been Drew Petzing kind of his hallmark of his offense. I think it's more likely that improves and it continues at this inefficient rate. Whether that means Trey Benson gets more involved, we'll see. But I think to be 2-0, it would be very hard to not have them as at least 21 in the rankings. I have them above the Steelers, who I think that there's so many issues with the Steelers, in my opinion. But I think it's only fair that they are at least, like I say, I have them at 21, I think. And I have them at 22. So I'm at 21. I'm looking at my Excel sheet and there's a header. So I'm looking at the number, not the actual number. Yeah, I'm at 21. I think that's only fair for how they started the season.
Yeah, go on, Paul. You got anything on the Cardinals?
Yeah, I was going to say, I had them a lot higher, and then I looked at it and went, I need to move them down. Because I just had them a lot higher just because they were 2-0. And I was like, well, that's not the purpose of this. We're not doing a standings table. So, yeah, I kind of had them probably at like 19, 20 maybe. And I was like, no. I just moved them down a bit because they're, like I say, they might get better. And if they do get better, keep on winning, then I will move them up. But they're very lucky, I think, so far that the Saints and Panthers didn't come back on them.
Yeah, and we'll move on to the team just below them, Paul. You've got the Bears at 25, quite a drop from last week. You had them at 17, so 8 spots down. For the Bears, is it disaster time already in Chicago?
Yeah.
Is this a lost season?
Yeah, it's got. I feel so sorry for Chicago sports fans. They can't have anything nice. They really can't. And yeah, it's done. Like you just see them how down bad they are already. Like if they'd have just got a bit of a whooping by the Lions, they'd have probably been okay with it. They just got full on stomping, 50 points. I know the Lions are pretty regular at putting up 50 points now, but I think the worrying thing is that they gave up in the game. I think, and that is a bad sign in week 2. And this is what we're on the 4th year of a rebuild now. I think he just needs to do it again. There's something about that. There's something about that city. There's something about that team where they seem to have done all. They seem to have. I mean, we talked about it for the review. They seem to have made all the right moves. It's just not working, and something needs to change. And maybe it is Ryan Pauls that needs to go and just leave it to Ben Johnson and let Ben Johnson run the entire show. That might not work out either, but something's got to give. And yeah, I don't know. It feels crazy saying they need to blow it up and start again, but I feel like they kind of might need to.
Yeah, I think some Bears fans. I think some Bears fans think it's probably year 40 of the rebuild. Truthfully, not much seems to change. It's a new quarterback. I thought it was interesting. It was Pete Carroll's 74th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Pete. Probably didn't enjoy it too much. But when he was born, the NFL had yet to see a 4,000-yard passer, and Chicago still hasn't. So
it's not happening this year as well. I know you've got the double with JJ McCarthy and Caleb Williams. That looks
neither of them are getting there. Hurrah!
Awful bad.
At least I can blame JJ getting injured. It won't be a fair complaint, but because he's not getting there regardless. But yeah, I don't
25 games he won't get there. I don't think.
I think in 25 he would. But yeah, no, neither of them are getting there. It looks depressing as heck for Chicago. I fully agree, and I think I wouldn't argue with them being 25. I think I don't happen to have them there, but a bit of a hodgepodge of teams in and around there, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the one team on here who probably, I mentioned it last week, probably could take a jump back up is the Texans. They've got the Jags. If they beat the Jags next week, then I know they've dropped 4, but they can certainly turn it around. I think some of these teams, the Steelers have got the Patriots, which is a bit of a, if you lose that, you're going to keep dropping down in our power rankings. All right, anyone else you want to chat about in this slide?
Oh, good.
Right, let's go to where you really don't want to be, the final 8. So the Patriots moved up 1 spot with their win at Miami to 25. The Jets dropped 3 spots to 26. The Giants remained at 27. The Titans remained at 28. The Panthers went up 1 spot to 29. The Saints got off the floor and moved up to 30. So it's not all hate for the Saints there. So they got up 2 spots to 30. The Browns down to 31. The Miami Dolphins are the new worst team in the NFL according to our power rankings. Do you want to just talk about the Dolphins, just getting straight off? Who would have thought this would start the year? But yeah, all 32s across the board. The Dolphins now have officially, like I said, the worst team. Paul, do you want to go ahead and say why you've got them below all the other teams around them?
Weird, isn't it? Because they were obviously got off to a rough start against the Patriots, but then kind of did improve in the game. They got going offensively. I think they got a bit, but they bowled themselves in the second half, just not running the ball. I think they ran the ball twice in the second half, which was, I think, crazy, and that's on Mike McDaniel. And then just kind of when the game was on the line, to have kind of you can't rely on special teams plays, but to have the punt return and then give up the kickoff return, the next play is crazy. That was that play and Vrabel on the touchline was the reason I put the Patriots up a few places, for that reason and that reason alone. But yeah, and then the communication issues that Mike McDaniel talked about afterwards, just not being able to get in position when in the most important plays of the game. I think it's a complete mess. Weirdly, kind of losing that game and then that way was almost as bad as just getting blown out again, I think. And then they've got to go to Buffalo on Thursday, and they're going to get absolutely hammered. Like, they're going to get pumped again. it's just rough times for the Dolphins. I don't think Mike McDaniel's going to last too far into October. I think, to be honest, like, what's the point?
I think your point there about, they were in good position and just didn't run to win the game. You got to not lose the game. A great philosopher once said that. So
a very high philosopher once said that. Fucking hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I the Dolphins vote. I think it's more the bad vibes. I feel like the other teams around them, I think the Saints are better than what we expected. So there's some more positive vibes there with a new head coach. I think the Browns knew what they were getting into, and it's all about rebuilding. But they got some good young pieces there. But it feels like the Dolphins, it's just very bad vibes there that it can go in the tank. One interesting one. So so the Jets have got the Bucs this week. So if they lose that, then they face the Dolphins in week 4, which could be, battle for the ball, because the Jets looked atrocious last week. I used to have them at 24, Paul, you had them at 27, I had 28. They slipped down. They were one of the biggest disappointments this week. At the start of the year, I had them over the 5.5 wins. I'm not quite sure they're going to get that if they keep playing how they're playing. Go on, Byron. Why did you have them slightly higher than I expected with the Jets? You had them in the third quarter rather than the bottom 8.
Yeah. I mean, I just had them, I guess, at 24. Yeah. I think, for me, the Jets, Raiders, Patriots are all, you could put them 3 really in any order to me. I slightly trust them more than the Titans. I think that O-line is going to give them enough benefit throughout the season. They did get beaten heavily by Buffalo, but it is Buffalo. To give it some kind of caveat, they competed well with the Steelers, who are another, I think, poor team. So, yeah, I just had them just above the Patriots, who I think were pretty rotten despite winning, and the Raiders, who I think were very, very poor on Monday night. And, again, just another poor team, truthfully. I'm just kind of putting it on that Jets O-line and think they'll have enough to, I don't want this to come across as overly praising, because I think they're a very bad level team overall, but I just think they'll probably be able to grind enough games out with that run attack and that O-line to keep them above the Patriots, Raiders, who I don't really know what their kind of identity is this season. That's kind of why I have them as high as I do, but I don't really think it's certainly not a growing endorsement.
Yeah. Paul, last word to you. Any teams you want to shout out? Were you surprised but happy with?
I suppose maybe the Titans holding, I think, is probably fair given where they are. I think we've seen enough promise out of Cam Ward to think he's going to be okay so far. Maybe don't try that throw again. I feel like you get one of them in an NFL career. Don't do that again, because next time you do, it's getting picked and taken to the house. But yeah, I think they're doing okay. And bear in mind as well, kind of they hung around with the Rams for 3 quarters, and then we're missing left tackle. O-line's probably missing Sweat, so those guys have got to come back as well. And yeah, I think they can be frisky, the Titans. I think they might win a couple of games that you're really not expecting them to win. So I think they've got a divisional game this week, haven't they? I think they've got is it the Colts they've got this week? Colts at home. I feel like they win that game a lot. Colts at home, the Titans. I'll do my prep for our actual preview, but I feel like Titans at home to Colts is one of them weird AFC South things where it's on a run of they've won 7 or 8 in a row that tends to happen in the AFC South. So I wonder if we get that again this week. But yeah, I think the Titans could be fun.
And I totally agree. I just wanted to give a shout there as well on the Titans. I think of all the teams in this last slide here, I think these have got the best chance of getting to 20 or above this season. I think the rest are all kind of mired in this bottom quadrant, bottom 10. I think the Titans have shown enough kind of reasons for excitement. I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff team by any means, but if those young pieces can keep progressing, especially on offense, I think there's reasons to have optimism as a Titans fan.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's week 3 of the power rankings in the books. 2 weeks of football already done. So join us on Friday for week 3 preview. We're already week 3, guys. Remember to follow us on all the social medias, GTW_GTC at YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok, Blue Sky, all of the above. everything. Just type in that and you'll find us. So yeah, join us on Friday where we'll have a special guest and we'll go through all the games. Thanks guys for joining us. And yeah, this is the Power Rankings.